Good morning and welcome to another edition of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am DM Bluddworth, and as you can see by the graphics, today I'm taking my first look at Blueholme, Journeymanne Rules. So, if you're not aware, Blueholme is an OSR retro clone of Dungeons and Dragons, the sometimes called the Blue Book, but more commonly called the Holmes edition of old school Dungeons and Dragons. So this came out in the late 70s. Let's see, we have the 74 is certainly the white box, but this may be like 77, 78, and this particular edition is 79. So, and this is the third edition that I have here. You might also be very familiar with the box. I'll see the lighting. The lighting in the morning is not great in this space that I video from, so I apologize for that. But and this original book was levels 1 through 3, and it's roughly 46 pages long. All right, so fairly compact, fairly short on the way of expansion rules, and that's because it only takes characters from levels 1 through 3. Blueholme will take it to level 20. So levels 1 through 20, and then add some additional sections. And this book, which is still fairly thin, is a little over 100 pages. Let's see. 112 pages. So 112 pages long. And we're going to start taking a look at this and go through. Now, I'm not going to go through the actual game mechanics of it because I have a dozen videos going through old school Dungeons and Dragons and the game mechanics. I'm just going to focus on what is a little bit unique about this rather than going through character generation and such. Although I will mention them briefly as I go through, but still not going to do that much of an in-depth. This is a first look video. So let me switch right over to my so here's the PDF, and I'll change the size if necessary. It's a very nice touch that the foreword is written by Chris Holmes, the son of John Eric Holmes, and so that's very good. And he really goes into the whole purpose behind this project, and the whole purpose behind this project is to introduce new players to these older game systems without actually having to use the original books that you might had since the late 70s until now. So it gives you the opportunity to get a soft cover or a PDF of the old school rules and then put some modern twists to it. And in this case, the modern twist is to expand it from levels 1 to 3 all the way up through now levels 20. So as we go forward here, so like I said, the characters and their ability scores in all old school D&D, takes a break from it in D&D BECME, but the older versions of D&D is you roll 3d6 and you place them in order. But a really important note is that the attributes weren't as important as they would become in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons First Edition, Second Edition, and they weren't as important as in later editions of Dungeons and Dragons. So you could have a character with fairly low ability scores, and that character could still be a very functional character because other components come into play that are, within a simplified rule system. You just don't have to rely on those attributes as much. Now, the new sections that really come into play here is this is the creatures section and characters, where they have characters in the creature section. So we're going to jump forward to page 62 so that we can take a look at that. And I'll just do a fast, a little too fast of a scroll. All right, so here we go. So creatures. Creatures as monsters. The alphabetical creatures listing in this chapter are meant to represent the average for their types. The referee can easily adjust their might by making them weaker or stronger to suit the party's level of experience. Hit dice, armor class, or damage can all be adjusted up or down to suit. Of course, the creature's treasure should be modified accordingly. All right, and then he goes into, the caution, not to make creatures too powerful or too weak. It's supposed to be a challenge. This chapter contains a selection of creatures varied enough for any referee's campaign. However, there is always the scope of new creatures to add spice, surprise, and wonder to an individual game world. There are innumerable creatures found in other publications that can easily be slotted into a campaign, often with little or no modification. So you can pull from the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Monster Manual or Monster Manual 2 or Fiend Folio, or you can pull 5th edition monsters from the various monster manuals from that as well, and easily port them and convert them into this system, and they'll work just as well. Creatures as characters. Almost every creature in this chapter may be played as a classed player or non-player character at the referee's discretion. Intelligent and humanoid creatures are, of course, the easiest to fit into a campaign. It is normally not a good idea to allow one character that is much more or less powerful than the rest of the party, so as to give all the players a chance to partake. However, it is not a given that the game must be perfectly balanced. As long as the players and the referee are happy, there is no reason why every character has to be identical in his or her level of prowess. Classes. The player must choose an appropriate class within the limits set by the referee. For example, a particular game world might allow Draenoi. Draenoi are like an insectoid type creature to be fighters, magic users, and thieves, but not clerics. So it's all you can look at it. You can say, well, you might have a player that wants to play a hill giant, and so the hill giant might have limitations. The hill giant can't be a thief, but the hill giant should certainly be able to be a fighter. Probably can't be a magic user because of the lower intelligence, and so on. So you can make these adjustments that are just common sense. How do I make this fit into my game world, and then how do I make it make sense within the game rules and the game systems? Ability scores, and they talk about it here. Ability scores. Each creature listing includes any modifiers. That's not always the case. I discovered as I was going through this, because I was looking for, orc-specific modifiers, and they weren't there. But that's where the DM comes in and creates them. But the normal range of 3 to 18 for humanoid species is fine, and then you may modify thereafter. Because some species are notably weaker or more powerful than others, experience points, penalties, or bonuses should be applied. For example, bugbears have the ability score and strength bonuses. So a referee may apply a minus 20% XP penalty on bugbear player characters. These modifiers are applied in addition to prerequisite XP modifiers. So if you're playing a bugbear fighter, and let's say you have because you're a bugbear fighter and you have a 20 strength instead of the maximum 18. Well, with that advantage that you're gaining for having such a high strength level, then you will have less experience because it's a balancing issue more so than it's a relationship issue between, well, if I'm really high strength, I don't gain experience as quickly because I'm not learning from my actions as easily. That doesn't make much sense. So it's just a game mechanic. It's just saying, well, you know what? If you have this, if you're playing this particular humanoid species as a fighter or as a magic user or whatever have you, you're going to have some penalties for that growth, and that's seen later on in other editions of Dungeons and Dragons, especially where you have races as classes, where the races, elves, dwarves, and halflings take a little bit longer to level up than their human counterparts in those, especially elves, much higher. Halflings are a little bit less, and certainly less than thieves, or very close to even to thieves, I should say. But anyway, so they give you various modifiers. Large creatures such as ogres and giants do more damage than human-sized characters, at least at the character level equivalent to their normal HD. Simply use the damage shown in the creature listing below. So Olga is a first-level ogre fighter. Does D6 points of damage with a successful attack like any other character. At third level, this would increase to D8 at the referee's discretion. This could happen at second level. And fourth level onwards, she does D10 like any other 4 HD ogre plus any fighter bonuses. So as that character is going up in level, they may have a slight, one level advantage over being a regular human fighter. However, once they get to level 4, then they would have that baseline of D10, which is what a regular 4 HD ogre would have. They show you some thief skills modifiers, and they include here orcs and Draenoi. Again, Draenoi are the insectoid type creatures. I noticed on first glance through this that they don't have dwarf modifiers for thieves, and I didn't really go into whether or not what races and classes there are in this. So that's something that I'll cover a little bit later on when I go more into depth. So let's take a look at the Draenoi, because I'm not as familiar with them. So I want to see what exactly they are. I know they're an insect race. Here we are. Draenoi are humanoid insects. They can talk, but amongst themselves, they communicate telepathically. There are several distinct types of Draenoi, but only the warriors are detailed here. Drones are larger, stronger, and four-armed, but they are completely unaggressive and will not fight to defend themselves. An immense bloated Draenoi queen lies in the heart of every hive, but she is immobile and lives only to lay eggs and to telepathically rule over her brood. Only 1 in 50 warriors are independently intelligent. The others obey the telepathic commands, or, if left to their own devices, attack anything not Draenoi. All right, and so this is potentially a playable race if your DM is going to allow it, and they give you the options of you look here. You could see they run in range of a hit dice of 1d8, so they could be as low as first level and as high as 8th level. They do weapon, they do bite damage. A weapon or bite is a d6 or a d4. I guess weapon is d6 and bite is a d4. Interesting. So let's continue on and see anything else that kind of stands out. Now remember, this takes you up through level 20 as opposed to the original Holmes edition of Dungeons and Dragons, which only takes you to level 3. So there is most of the content in this book is dealing with those expanded levels. So here we have a section part A on campaigns, and basically just hints and tips and how to construct a campaign. So very, fairly simple and and it should be nothing new for anyone who is an experienced role-play game player, or if you're new to being a dungeon master, then this will be very useful for you, so that you can pick up on some tips and hints and ways to create a fairly easy but structured campaign. We have a character sheet. Simple stuff. So gaze is all its own. To put ray and poison on the same category, and so on. So that's pretty much it. As far as that, like I said, if I find a reason to go into much more detail on any of these sections, or if you request that I do a second, follow-up video on actually digging right into this rule set, then, please feel free to leave a comment there and request for me to do that. Or if you want a clarification or something, I certainly welcome those comments as well. So once again, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to leave a comment, please leave a comment there. If you have any questions or suggestions about this game or another game that you'd like for me to take a look at, please feel free. If you know of any OSR games out there that are really looking back at some of the older editions of any game system, then please leave a little comment in there so I can take a look at it. I'd love to see some other game systems that are getting an OSR treatment. What is an OSR version of Traveler, let's say, or of Harn, or of RuneQuest, or whatever. So any of those older edition role-playing games that might have a new look at them. I'm kind of looking to expand my my library of OSR games, but so many of them are focused on Dungeons and Dragons. I'm kind of looking for other genres or other game systems to take a look at. So once again, thanks for joining. I hope you enjoyed this video. I look forward to seeing you on the gaming screen sometime soon. You have a great rest of the week. Stay safe. Remember, Mother's Day is coming up. I will do a video before the weekend, so I'll send that message out there once again to all the mothers out there. So happy Mother's Day, and without further ado, I will be checking off. So you all have a great day. Thanks for joining.